Hello everyone, We Do Day 3 here, and it's been a while since we've done a little bit of a discussion. I felt it's appropriate since, Halloween was a little bit ago, but Castlevania Season 2 has just come out, and really Season 1 and 2 together are just one long season, so I figured, now that it's complete, I kind of want to talk about it. So I have two co-hosts with me, Alexandra as per usual.
Hello.
And then probably a face you haven't seen on this channel in a while, honestly.
It's been a long time.
Yep. Green Scorpion, how you doing, Oscar?
I'm doing all right. How's it going, everybody?
Alright, so I think first thing to talk of, just so everyone kind of gets where we're all coming from, your history with Castlevania as a whole, I think is probably a good thing to talk about. For me, I'm a casual Castlevania fan. Like, I've played pretty much all the games up through Symphony of the Night and have passing knowledge of the games afterwards. For me, but I have a feeling you two are much more like diehard Castlevania fans than for me.
By Die Hard, I still haven't beaten Castlevania 3 to this day. Except the person who's beaten Battletoads somehow, but
Okay, I was gonna say I don't blame you because Castlevania 3 is balls hard, but you beat Battletoads?
I was 9 and I had a lot of determination that when I was growing up.
I both respect and feel so sorry for you.
Yeah, no, not again. But despite that, I have pretty much the classic Vania stuff I've more or less dabbled in. I've beaten 1, never touched 2, and never probably going to touch 2. And I dabbled in Super Rondo and Bloodline. So I was like, what's that Genesis one? But the Metroidvania ones are the ones I'm most well versed in. First one I beat was Aria of Sorrow, and I've pretty much beaten every Metroidvania there has been. And I've beaten a couple of the console games. I mean, their lore is great, but their gameplay is alright.
Curse of Darkness is mediocre at best.
Yeah. And for you, Oscar?
I consider myself a little more than a casual Castlevania fan. Not quite the level of like someone like Quarter Guy or anything like that, but I have dabbled in a lot of the series. My personal favorite being Super Castlevania 4. I mean, I acknowledge that Symphony of the Night is probably an overall, better game, but Super Castlevania 4 just does it for me. I've beaten the original. I've beaten Dracula's Curse somehow. Never beat 2, only because I could never be bothered to do it. The only thing I really like about Simon's Quest is the music.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it. I realized what they were going for, but it just didn't work out.
You see,
I have dabbled also in excuse me, in the Metroidvania style Castlevanias. Like I said, I played Symphony of the Night, love that game. I've played Aria of Sorrow. I played Portrait of Ruin. One of my favorites, Portrait of Ruin, actually. I'm also one of those chumps that actually gets some sort of enjoyment out of Castlevania Judgment.
Yeah. I mean, I've dabbled into it here and there. Music's the best part of that game, hands down.
Oh, no, the music's fantastic. And frankly, I actually like some of the designs in that game. Like, Grant Dynasty looks amazing, something of which I'll also get into later.
Yeah.
But I haven't played the likes of Order of Ecclesia. I haven't played, I haven't played Castlevania 64 or the one starring,
Legacy of Darkness?
I haven't played Legacy of Darkness, no, so I haven't played the one with, Cornell.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much the extent of it. Like, I love Castlevania, but if I'm going to be dabbling in this series, I have always preferred old school Castlevania. I will play the original Castlevania, I will play Dracula's Curse, Super Castlevania 4, and Symphony of the Night, and I will never get tired of them.
See, I don't file Symphony of the Night of the original because everyone says the original is Classic Vania, which is the more arcade point A to point B style. And then, like, Symphony of the Night to Order of Ecclesia is Metroidvania.
Metroidvania.
I know. What I mean by classic is that it's the game that kind of turned the that changed the series forever.
Yeah.
Like,
To be fair, after Symphony of the Night, there is kind of a big shift after.
Mhm.
after
I personally prefer the simplistic 2D platformers with
Yeah.
some light combat and whatnot.
It's
But I will not deny that Castlevania Symphony of the Night definitely holds a very important place in gaming's history.
it's interesting. I was hoping to get my friend Tyler into here. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it with us, but he's just experiencing the series now because of both this series and, of course, Belmont's inclusion in Smash Brothers. Because before he wasn't into Castlevania because the only one he played before then as a kid was Castlevania 3, and I was just like, yep. Yeah, I can see why you didn't have a very positive experience with Castlevania at that point.
Not a positive experience. I'm surprised I like Castlevania as much as I did because, you see, my granddad had an old NES, and that's where I first started playing gaming when I was a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
I was scared out of my mind of Castlevania 1. So how I ended up becoming a huge fan of it, I don't know.
Maybe just something gels with you on it. That being said, and this is going to become relevant once we start talking about the Netflix series.
Mm-hmm.
What I find really cool about it is that the Netflix series stands on its own merits. Like Castlevania fans, like the three of us, are going to find a lot we love about it because we get this reference and that's referencing this game and all that jazz. But my girlfriend Ignis, you guys who watch my channel know her as Ignis. She said something really cool, and it's that you don't have to be a Castlevania fan to get the most out of the series.
Yeah,
and that's great.
So I guess kind of going into the series, it was announced.
Yeah, we might as well make the segue now.
Yeah, it was announced around early 2017, and I just remember my initial impression just going, huh. Because Castlevania hasn't really been around for a while. Netflix is a popular platform. I'm just like, I'll see where this goes. Like,
I was practicing cautious optimism because most video game adaptations or most cartoon or movie adaptations of video games don't end well.
Yeah, even if it's like an OVA or stuff like that, it tends to not be that great with a few exceptions here and there.
There's obviously exceptions, but a lot of those exceptions are either genuinely good or it's so bad it's good. Like I know some people may have their opinions on like Kirby Right Back at Ya, but that series is only really good because of how cringeworthy it is.
But I will say, as my kind of overall impression, I think this is definitely one of the stronger kind of adaptations of a video game that I've seen in a while. It's not perfect by any means, but I definitely have been enjoying the ride that this one has been doing.
In terms of critical reception, it is the strongest because it's like the highest rated.
It is the highest?
On Rotten Tomatoes, it is the highest rated video game adaptation ever.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. Like, again, comparing this to most other video game most other adaptations of video game canon, the Castlevania Netflix series definitely stands among the strongest, if not it is absolutely the strongest video game referencing piece of media there is. Compared to other animated series and whatnot, I'm not gonna rate this higher than something like Voltron or Steven Universe, maybe Steven Universe, but only because things happening with that series. I'm not gonna get into that. But I can safely say that the Netflix Castlevania series stands among some of the better animated series that we're seeing today.
Yeah, I remember when season 1 came out, it was just kind of like, yeah, no, I'll check it out, and then I realized it's 4 episodes. I'm like, what? Okay. Okay, but by the time we got to season 2, I was just like, oh yeah, I'm ready for this. I want to see where this goes.
I'm pretty sure the reason for that is because they just did 4 episodes of trying kind of establish a foundation, try to see people's reactions or get a read on how is this going? How are people liking this? And once it got such good reception, that was the green light for them to say, okay, season 2 right now, 10 episodes, let's do this.
Yeah, so we're pretty much going to be talking about season 1 and season 2 as pretty much just one big season because they feed into each other so naturally, it might as well just be
basically
one season together. So let's start from the beginning. I think the big thing we should talk about is this series version of Dracula, because the first episode's pretty much entirely dedicated to him.
Oh my god.
The first episode's probably my favorite episode of this entire show, honestly.
Writers, pay attention to this. Castlevania Netflix series Dracula is how you write a villain.
He's fantastic, and I think, because we've always heard in stuff like Symphony of the Night of that Dracula ended up marrying a human. She got burned to the crisp, and then Dracula, he had humans after that point. But we've never really seen of what she was like and how they interacted or how they met. And that's one of the things I think the Netflix series actually took really good advantage of, because it's brief, but the time they spend with each other is really good. And then when you find out what happened to her, Dracula's rightfully pissed at that point.
But that's one thing I do want to give a positive to the Netflix Castlevania, and that was me going in with cautious optimism, because they said they're adapting Castlevania 3, and I'm thinking, that's not much source material to work with in terms of... So the creator Warren Ellis and what was it, Adi Shankar or whatever his name is, he's the chief animator. They dabbled in other games that were connected or related to Castlevania 3 in some way, which was very wise of them to do. And one of the things was, okay, Dracula married this human. Why did he marry this human?
But I love the fact that they also fully acknowledge that he both fully embraces both magic and technology into stuff like that, which I think explains the stuff, especially like the clock tower. Why is there there's all this magic, and then there's a random clock tower in every Castlevania, and it never makes any sense, but they somehow manage to make it make sense. And I love the imagery in that episode where his head just comes out of the fire in there. You all got 1 year to clean this up. 1 year later, okay, that's it, everyone dies.
Yeah, no, like the first part of the series where they're basically introducing Lisa and Dracula's relationship. Like, I think the fact that you said ChaosChao, that like Dracula or Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse, it's like that's not much source material to go on, and I think that was the point, because there wasn't much established in Dracula's Curse, which basically allowed the writers of this series to go nuts.
Yeah,
they had all the creative room to basically say, you know what? Okay, Dracula and Lisa fell in love. Why? Because of this, because of this, because of this. Lisa was a human who was accused of being a witch because of her advancements in medicine, and like she's a scientist for all intents and purposes, but back then in that time period, science was seen as magic.
Yeah.
And so they got the time period like opinions right as well, but that's also part of the reason why Dracula fell in love with Lisa, because she was curious, she was willing to explore the unknown, and she was not afraid to do it.
Not to mention she sass talked him and tell him be polite, motherfucker.
Exactly, and I think that's why Dracula fell in love with this woman, because it's the one person who is not afraid of him. Like, they explored the relationship between these two so well, to the point where you understand why Dracula does what he does and why he feels the way he feels. What he's doing is still basically genocide.
Yeah.
But again, that's how you write a good villain. Make their intentions, make their motivations heinous and evil, but make the reason for it human.
Yeah.
And they did that extremely well. I love this iteration of Dracula.
Yeah.
Sad to say that one of the most human characters
is the vampire.
Yeah, no, like, especially when we get to when we start talking about the end part of season 2. Oh wow.
Yeah. So I guess going on from then, let's talk about our main protagonist then, for Trevor, because Trevor was always kind of a character that you kind of had a vague idea on what he was. Netflix Castlevania is the first time where we really get to explore him. So how'd you guys feel about this incarnation of him?
I mean, I was perfectly fine with them trying whatever with him because most, if not all, Belmonts are pretty much blank slates in terms of personality in the games.
Yeah.
He is an asshole, and I love it. I'm sorry. Castlevania series, Trevor, like this iteration of Trevor is amazing because he didn't ask for any of this.
He just wanted to be a drunk in a town after the Belmonts basically went to hell. It's just like, I'm done with vampire hunting.
I mean, he's kind of like another foil to Dracula. I mean, his reaction to what's happening around him is still very much human considering what happened to him. He's only helping them out because it's his job. It's his family's business and everything, but
and even then you get a sense that Trevor really has nothing left to lose. So basically when they send in the request for him to come to this town and take care of the monster problem, he's like, I'm not doing anything else.
Right. Yeah. And honestly, it's like even when he first encountered, which we'll be getting to shortly, the speakers, he was very just like whatever about this. He just did not. He pretty much, like, how Dracula has lost faith in humanity, you could sense that Trevor had as well.
It kind of makes him foils in a way, because like Dracula has become disillusioned with humanity, whereas Trevor just really doesn't give a crap.
I mean, to be fair, I guess it is kind of calling back to that opening scroll text of Castlevania 3, where like they banished the Belmonts and then suddenly want them back and stuff like that, which I always felt like was really weird in a text scroll of how they worded it. Then again, it's NES translation.
Yeah.
But like actually seeing it, like, okay, I get more of Trevor, though. I think my one complaint with him, I feel like he's strong at the beginning and then kind of teeters out by the end of season 2. Like, it felt like they kind of...
I think it's because they were trying to shift focus away from him, and I'll get back to why.
Yeah. Like, I know why, because of a certain pretty boy who's going to be important later on in this series.
I like to argue that he seems to be very powerful at the beginning, but that's only because the enemies that he's fighting, the enemies that he's fighting are not nearly as powerful as Dracula and his minions.
Yeah. And
2, he's working alone.
Well, I mean, I'm not talking about just, like, power or anything like that. I mean of, like, his actual character. Felt like they kind of didn't let him do as much by the end of the series other than just fight.
I'm not too sure about that.
In terms of combat, I can see that. But in terms of character, no, I think it was pretty steady until, like, the last 2 episodes, which was pretty clear-cut. We're focusing on this one guy right now.
Yeah.
Yes, but even then in those last 2 episodes, like, the thing is, they had every reason to kind of shift the focus because Trevor's character by that point has already started reaching his closure.
True.
Especially considering the characters that he was interacting with. They were kind of leading him towards, you know what? Yeah, I'm a Belmont. I have this duty. I might as well do it, and I might as well do it with a good attitude. And that was kind of the resolution of his character. It's like he didn't give a crap about humanity, and now he kind of gives a crap, but at the same time, like, you know what? I might as well do it. It is the right thing to do. Still hate people though.
I guess in a way he's kind of
attitude and massive air quotes.
Like I guess in a way he's kind of paralleling, you know, Dracula if he gave humanity that second chance kind of thing.
In a way, like in a lesser extent and in a different way, but yeah, kinda.
Yeah. So anything else on Trevor in general before we move on?
I actually would like to point out one thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
The choreography regarding the combat segments with that whip was genius. Like, it's one thing to have whip combat and, like, you know, have the weapons that Trevor was using, but what really got me was in his fight with Senor Pretty Boy.
Yeah.
It could have been they could have had a simple a simple whip animation where he was like swinging his whip to the left to basically hit him from the side. No, he sends the whip forward to the side and then uses his other hand to drag the whip to the left. And I was like, oh, that's clever.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it when in fights, you know, the whip becomes magically like 100 feet all of a sudden.
Yeah, but again, it's a family heirloom. But
Yeah.
I really liked how, like, because the thing is, like, the main difference between what really separates Trevor between the other two characters in terms of like how they approach combat, Trevor is definitely one who knows how to think on his feet.
Yeah, they made him the improviser.
I think that's pretty much established as early as when they or he was working with the townspeople to stop the demons and Grass shit.
Yeah.
Because that way he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna use everything I know, but okay, I don't have this, and this. All of you people, we're doing some makeshift versions of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically, he kind of reminds me of Sokka from The Last Airbender in a way.
In a way, I could maybe see it, yeah.
At least in terms of strategy and thinking on their feet. In regards to character, no.
Yeah, that's what
they're polar opposites.
Yeah, speaking of character, I'll come back and visit Trevor when we talked about somebody else because I've got words to say in a good way. But
sounds good. Okay, so
the next one up is the character I think who easily got the most development compared from their NES counterpart to here is Sypha Belnades. Because in the NES game, she really doesn't have any other character other than her identity being hidden for most of the game.
One thing I really do find interesting is that they kind of just brushed it off. She's like, oh, okay, I'll find a grandkid. Finds out a granddaughter. It's like, okay, granddaughter, whatever, moving on.
Yeah, for one, we learned that she is part of a speaker clan who passed their history down for speaking, which, by the way, is the worst way to keep your history, by the way. If you ever played a game of telephone, you know stuff gets changed, so I am amazed that clan is still around at this point.
History is written by the winner, as it were.
Yeah. But,
well, to be fair, she does bring up that point in season 2.
She does, actually. And I kind of like that they do that.
Yeah. Because Sypha, just her entire backstory with the speakers, I did find really interesting, and her kind of viewpoints on stuff, there's a lot more character with there, and I feel like she works as a good middle ground between the other two characters in the trio.
Oh, absolutely. This is easily my favorite iteration of Sypha Belnades, if only because, again, the original games where she appears doesn't really give much in terms of her character, and Castlevania Judgment kind of made her a bitch.
Yeah.
But this iteration of Sypha Belnades is fantastic. Again, she kind of works as that anchor of the party, where she's kind of like that person who kind of like keeps things together and makes sure no one kills each other.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I love her character development because she kind of starts out as, like, again, she's a member of the Speakers, so she has a very concrete view of how the world works in regards to, she has her opinions about religion, and she kind of, sees the good in people and things like that. And then hanging around with Trevor and, like, going on this adventure, she kind of eventually comes to realize, you know what? No, the world kind of sucks.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I can't do something about it.
Right. Yeah. So, she would she started as this like really blind-eyed idealist.
Mm-hmm.
And it took that journey for her to kind of just come to terms with probably one of the just best things about something I personally like to view myself as an idealist.
Mm-hmm.
To do that in this day and age.
Yeah, seriously though, but we're not going to get into that. But no, I really like Sypha's character growth in the series because, again, it's a realistic personality growth. Because it's like, how many, like, she was basically, I guess you could say, religion blind.
Yeah.
But once she actually got her hands dirty and realized, oh, this is all present in the world, her viewpoint changed.
Mm-hmm.
But her motives did not.
Yeah.
He still wants to go out and do good in the world, but now she's doing it through the eyes of someone who has a little more world experience. And her character growth definitely reflects that, and it's definitely one of the best in the series.
Can I also say that in Season 2, she easily gets some of the best fight scenes of this entire show?
Dude, her magic rivals freaking Doctor Strange.
Yeah. I will say, like, near the beginning of Season 2, there's, like, this one fire attack that she does, I think in, like, episode 1, I think, of Season 2, that's...
1 or 2, they had that scene with the 3 of them fighting.
And
we'll come back to that later because there was a reference there, but
Yes, there was.
And easily my favorite kill of the whole series is when she makes that one ice plane, has the guy runs off and then turns it 90 degrees and slices straight up. It's like the best kill of the whole series so far.
I have my personal preferences, but what's also really cool about Sypha's magic is that they stay true to what she was good at in the original games, and that was nature magic.
Yeah.
She mainly resorted to fire and ice in the series, a little bit of wind, but again, like, it made sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good to see that, like, they kept that detail about her where she mainly dabbles in anima magic.
Yeah.
One more thing about Sypha.
Alright.
The sass on this woman!
yeah, there it is. There it is.
Here's the thing. Is one thing for her character growth? Great. Her combat prowess? Great. Her strength as a character? Great. All brought together that she is hilarious.
She should probably get some of the best lines of the whole series.
She does.
I could be in a bucket and got it beer.
Tray 4. Treffy? Oh god, no. You are Treffy now. Don't.
So,
Also, yeah, Sypha and Trevor eventually become very adorable.
Yeah.
Well, they're clearly trying to line this up, so, because canonically those two did actually.
Yeah, they get married in the original games.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
That's the end of that's Castlevania 3's ending if you have Sypha up in your team at the end, so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought one thing in terms of historical accuracy I thought was really good for Sypha as well is the fact that since she was traveling with a bunch of speakers, basically effectively a bunch of monks.
Oh yeah.
Had to have her hair cut short to just keep her gender low profile. That was actually very accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciated that. Yeah, that's another thing. Have you noticed that Sypha's design in Castlevania Judgment was very much boom?
Let me even look up her design from...
Do you mean in terms of where Maria's story came along?
Yes!
Yeah.
Please don't remind me of that.
Okay, here's the thing. I even had to look up. I forgot that this was supposed to be Sypha, honestly, because of the design is so drastically different.
I am glad they didn't do that with this Sypha.
Yeah, it's
much very
more based on the NES design.
One other thing I do have to give props to the Netflix Castlevania, and this is over the whole doggone series in general, is the fact because usually, which is again one big irony if you think about it, it's like the Belnades family was usually employed by the church.
Yeah.
But here, the speakers are despised by the church. We're realistically despised by the church
because they have magic.
And I'm just like, because that was one thing I realized when I played Dawn of Sorrow. When I was looking at everybody's profiles, and I saw Yoko's profile, and she's like, "Oh, employed by the church." I was like, "Wait, but she's a witch. What?"
Yeah, that was the whole character. That was Sypha's whole character in that she was trying to continue her work despite the fact that her family and her sisters were basically slaughtered by the church for being witches.
Yeah. So...
And fast forward years and years later, they're employed by the church. I still don't see. That's gonna bug me to this day unless they have a proper explanation for it in the series.
I don't doubt that they will address that eventually.
Yeah. So. Is that it for Sypha?
I think we've got enough on Sypha.
So the next one's gonna last a while, so let's talk about our little Alucard, who definitely was the definitely the focus of season 2 by
Tell
far.
that to your floating Jesus here.
but
one of the best lines.
no.
That is like Trevor gets a lot of really good lines.
The best exchange between news. You're a piece of shit. Fuck you.
Oh yeah. I will find us a covered wagon and horses if you two can manage not to kill each other while I'm gone. Oh please, we're not children.
You shouldn't die.
Yes.
You shouldn't die.
Like the thing is, I show that clip to like if anyone asks me, "Hey, how's the Castlevania Netflix series?" I show them that clip specifically because that is a perfect example of what to expect in this ragtag trio of heroes.
Yeah, so Alucard, I think, was definitely the character that they had the most to work with this time because Alucard in Castlevania 3 is nothing like his Symphony of the Night version.
Mm-hmm.
So basically being able to reinsert that into this timeline, I think made Alucard a really fun character to watch, especially...
And they even grew him even further beyond what they had in Symphony of the Night, because we have to remember, and we'll get to this, to episode 8 of season 2, but this was the first time he did this.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
even though his motives were the same, his emotions and mentality going through it obviously would make more sense.
He is bitter to the Belmonts.
Oh,
especially.
absolutely.
Yeah, like that was kind of it took me a bit back because I'm so used to him in Symphony of the Night, seeing him so bitter to Belmonts.
I mean, let's keep this in mind that Symphony of the Night is basically Alucard like centuries after the events of Dracula's curse,
like
because in that
years,
one he teams up with Richter.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like this iteration of Alucard definitely makes a lot of sense because again, it starts like the relationship between the trio really starts out like extremely rocky because again of Alucard's bitterness towards the Belmonts, and frankly, Trevor is definitely not the most agreeable guy around.
Yeah, maybe not your best first impression of a Belmont.
Oh no, absolutely no. Trevor would make a horrible ambassador to the family.
Not to mention Trevor. I mean, the fact that like him working with the Dampier goes completely against what his family stands for too.
Yeah.
Not that he gives a crap.
Yeah, no, but he still does his job anyway. I mean, and that was the thing that sparked their fight. He's like, I don't give a crap about. I was like, this is my job. I'm supposed to kill creatures of the night. The end.
Yeah, and even after they kind of like start developing a sort of like camaraderie, like Trevor and Alucard never really have a fully fleshed out reconciliation of their characters. Even after everything is said and done, they still are very skeptical to interact with each other for fear of, you know, pissing the other person off.
Yeah.
It goes from pissing the other person off to just we're snarking with each other. So at that point, I'm just like, okay, there's some serious belligerent sexual tension going on.
I don't know about that. But no, like again, after the classic "eat shit and die" and "fuck you" scene, even after that, after they find the Belmont hold and like start like looking through all the information, there's a point where Alucard and Trevor like are at odds with each other to the point where Sypha has to intervene and literally pull Trevor out of the scenario.
I mean, literally, Alucard said it himself. It's like, this is just a shrine dedicated to killing my kind in here. How do you think I feel about it? Kind of thing, which,
yeah, it's really interesting in that, I know I'm jumping to the episode, but the two moments that completely juxtaposed each other in a matter of just minutes in that was Alucard disgusted by the hold, and then Trevor finding the Morning Star, which was just polar opposite of him just being this, as if he was like, I actually wish I saw this as a child sort of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then he ends up using it.
To quickly sidetrack to the Belmont hold, since I feel like we're not going to be talking about this a whole lot later, but definitely some of the best references in there. Like, I noticed the double item was in there as like a stone tablet and stuff like that in particular, of little Easter eggs. and stuff like that are everywhere in that place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty clear. Like the creator of the series was a huge fan of Castlevania through and through. So I was glad about the little references and details.
Like for
So would someone care to explain to me why there was a crate filled with spells about penises?
Belmont's
No,
got
I love Snark between Sypha and Alucard.
let's just say one of the Belmont descendants got a little curious. Let's go with that.
Uh-huh. Anyway, back to Alucard. That's another thing I really found interesting. Like they did this characterization with Alucard very subtly throughout season 2. But have you guys ever noticed that whenever he sees like Sypha or Trevor or the both of them interacting with people or interacting with each other, he kind of has this look of confusion about him.
Well,
It's both confusion and a lot of people would think it's jealousy. I think it's both confusion and just the feeling of, I don't think I'm ever going to have this in my life. And I think that's really more reflective of Symphony of the Night, unless you get
Uh-huh.
I mean, when you're
Like
only
there's a slight I think there is a slight hint of envy there.
when your only social interactions have been Dracula and his wife, you're probably going to not exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, it turns out that the first one human that he is forced to interact with specializes in killing his kind.
Yeah.
Yeah. That being said, though, I think perhaps the solidifying thing to show in the end, I know they were skeptical each other, but at least if they're not necessarily friends, enough that Trevor respects and trusts Alucard was at the end, where he said, "Hey, if you're going to stay here, you're free to use the hold as you wish."
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Because, again, like, Alucard as a Dhampir still holds that small bit of humanity within him, despite the fact that he's the son of Dracula. And yeah. I like the fact that they kind of address that in that Alucard does not necessarily like monster hunters or anything like that, but he recognizes that what Dracula is doing is basically genocide. Probably should not let that happen.
Yeah, he's tagging along as a means to the end at first to take down Dracula.
And even then, it's not so much like that he cares about humanity, but he cared enough about his mother, and he knew that his mother cared about humanity, and that's enough to make him care.
Yeah. Wait.
Poor Lisa.
Yeah, but on a lighter note, because we have Symphony of the Night, Alucard, they were able to cram in a lot of stuff with him. I love that his default weapon is the Crusagram. Just like
the Crusagram, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like not his signature name sword. No, we're just gonna get the Crusagram.
Like everyone knows that's his default weapon at this point in all Castlevania media.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm jumping the gun a bit, but when he transformed into the wolf, I freaked out.
Oh, that was awesome!
Like, oh my god!
Yeah, that whole fight scene was fantastic.
I was so waiting for him to either turn into Mr. the Bat. I was so waiting for it to show up.
But I mean, here's the thing: they tease it in the intro of him turning into a wolf, in the intro the intro credit sequence.
That's true.
I'm just like, okay, when is this gonna happen? When is this gonna happen?
Which, I guess to kind of go from that, for me, one of my favorite moments of season 1 is actually right when we get to like the stone, Sypha and the Cyclops, and the Cyclops shoots a laser beam from its eye, and that was the sign to me of just like, okay, yes, this show gets it. We're gonna be video gamey in here. Why can the Cyclops shoot a laser from its eye? No real explanation other than it can.
It also turns things to stone.
Yeah. Like, for me, I love it. That's one of the things I think that makes this adaptation work, is that it's not afraid to be video gamey. And
I think really I can agree with that, actually.
It. Like...
See, this is a sort of adaptation where when you see the animation for it, it makes me wish they really they take a lot of the concepts of the video games and just roll with it to the point that you just kind of wish that you could have done it in the video game.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think that's probably one of the reasons why they picked Castlevania 3 over an NES game, because they're given way more freedom to work around stuff like that.
Yeah, because like I imagine that if they keep going on with the series, eventually we're going to get a season that focuses around Sypha Belmont. But
it's gonna be a weird season when they get to that point.
Yeah, especially because for all intents and purposes, the first Castlevania was just Simon going to Dracula's castle alone
and beating him up, and that was it.
I mean, maybe the only thing I could bring into question, like potentially bring. See, here's the thing. I'm thinking they're not going to focus on Simon, and it's just because, unlike Castlevania 3, there's just so little to work with.
Well, then again, you said that same thing about Dracula's curse, and yet they managed to come up with everything involving.
True, but I think it's also that in Castlevania 1, there's Simon and there's Dracula, and that's all you got.
But at the same time, that just gives them so much room to get creative with it.
True.
You know?
But there also comes another problem, because of the fact that it's just Simon and Dracula. You don't get that sort of camaraderie or that back and forth between the heroes. And I'm going to fast forward here. Dracula's two generals, which are we'll start talking about them shortly.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just looking at my notes because I went on Twitter and asked you guys a lot about things to talk about. One of the things you brought up is that since we talked about the main three of that, there is no Grant in this, despite him being a party member in Castlevania 3.
I was kind of disappointed about that. I love Grant Dynasty.
Like,
I read up about it, and I think it was a combination. Like, the creator said it was a combination of him, legitimately not liking the name Dynasty, which I mean, I kind of agree with him on that if you think about it. And also, he said he honestly could not find any way to write him in the way they had the story written.
Which I can understand.
Yeah.
That being said, I would like to see Grant come in at some point in the future season.
Like, I think it's one of those, story-wise, he has the least importance of all your party members, and it makes sense in that regard. I guess I would have kind of just liked to maybe see him in one episode, or at least in the background somewhere.
I would actually like to see him at least somewhat of a supporting character, especially because if we're going to go Castlevania Judgment's route of characterization, they could do a lot, and I mean a lot, in terms of drama and comedy regarding the love triangle between Trevor, Grant, and Sypha.
Yeah. So, a little disappointed by that, but the thing I was kind of surprised by, but when we got into Season 2, we got Curse of Darkness representation in here.
Yeah!
Which I was not expecting them to get into during the Castlevania 3 storyline. I was kind of shocked by that, so let's talk about...
Truth be told, though, those are some pretty sick character designs.
I mean, to be fair, they had to put them in somewhere to get them a good place to start, because it like... I'm sure your spoiler tags are off on.
Oh this. Yeah, like if you've made it into this point of the discussion, yeah, we're talking spoilers about this.
It's pretty freaking clear they are setting up to do some sort of Curse of Darkness style story for next season, or at least start it.
I think it's just going to be I think their game plan is going to be pretty much to do one game per season at this point, going forward.
I don't know if I completely support that. Because as we get to the Metroidvanias,
I think when we get to Metroidvanias, it will be a little different at that point. But in terms of like classic series stuff, yeah, one per season makes.
No, actually, I don't know. You could also probably do 2 seasons for Bloodlines if they choose to go with. If they choose to, well, they'd have to do Bloodlines if they want to do Portrait of Ruin now.
Yeah, there you go, and that could be like a good buddy cop type of series involving the Bloodlines, so like getting John Morris and Eric Alucard to interact.
Yeah.
Also, they also get more liberties for lore again. How the heck did the Morris family get the vampire killer?
There you go.
Hey.
So,
that'll make things interesting. But anyway, back to the series.
So yeah, let's talk about Hector and Isaac, who I think are probably two of the big highlights of Season 2 in particular. What do we think of them and their pretty drastic redesigns from Curse of Darkness?
Hector, I'm so sorry. He's like, I'm so sorry, and I'm sorry to your little Zombo pupper.
Well, quite frankly, like, again, we gotta keep in mind that Curse of Darkness, for all intents and purposes, is a reboot of the original Castlevania canon. So they had every freedom to do whatever they wanted with these characters.
Mm-hmm. And I generally like them. I find it interesting. I think they made a compelling case for, they're humans and they want to see humanity out because they've seen the worst of it and just like, they're all pieces of shit. So,
but I'm liking how they're writing it because it's pretty clear that Hector is going to just say, screw you guys, I'm going to kill you too. I've got everybody. Versus Isaac, I'm still going to be loyal to Dracula because it's pretty clear. Some point or another, he's gonna rebel against Carmilla.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
I was surprised that it didn't happen during season 2.
Well, Dracula described it correctly. Hector is more like a for all intents and purposes. For Dracula's side, Hector was the Sypha before the character development in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I actually kind of like to think that those two characters, like, this might be stretching it a bit, right? But those two characters in conjunction with Dracula, right?
Mm-hmm.
The three of them are kind of a cautionary tale of what Trevor, Alucard, and Sypha could have been.
I could see that parallel, yeah.
Yeah, because, like, if, like, Trevor could have been, like, I don't care about humanity, so screw you guys, and, like, he could have just, like, been done with Sypha and Alucard. Alucard, obviously, Dracula. And Sypha could have easily become basically mad with power.
Yeah. I also gotta say, with Isaac in particular, I think he's got probably some of the most brutal scenes in the entirety of season 2, especially for his damn weapon.
Oh, God, yes.
At the same time, one of the funniest, albeit in case of dark humor, funny, is when Carmilla is walking around looking for Godbrand, and she's just, like, literally up there. Isaac is just like, ashes.
Speaking of which, they have one of the best lines with Godbrand.
Which one in particular?
That doesn't involve fucking a boat?
Yeah. Look, Godbrand, I don't know if you've ever met something that you didn't immediately want to fuck, kill, or turn into a boat.
Yes!
That is a great line, which, by the way, goes into one of the other points that I love about this series. They were not afraid to be crude, and it actually makes it feel more relatable.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at some points they lay down, like, the F-bombs and stuff like that a little too much for me, but, like, when it works, it really works.
Like the tavern scene in episode 2.
Tavern scene is, like,
yes.
Like, the tavern scene for me, I think, is probably my least favorite scene of this season, because I think that's where that point brings it up the most. But with stuff like Isaac or, the eat it and die kind of thing, like, yeah, that's where you put it in.
But the thing is, it kind of, like, I actually like the bar scene, and I like that it established that, hey, if you're watching this and crudeness is not your thing, maybe you shouldn't watch this. Like, see, like, episode 2, I think, works as kind of a warning sign to people who are, like, trying to get into the series, and if they're uncomfortable with that, that's an immediately, okay, like, let's back out here.
Yeah,
when you really think about it,
the warning sign is seeing the fetus baby thing inside the monster's mouth. Is your
point taken. Sign. But again, like, that's the thing, though. We're dealing with a hunter who did not ask for any of this, a church who pretty much desecrates witches, villains who do not give a crap about humanity. It would feel a little jarring if they weren't crude about it.
Yeah. Which I guess to transition to that, what do you guys feel about, like, the level of violence and stuff like that? Because this show is gory.
I freaking think it fits.
Yeah.
It fits very well, and
I am glad to see that the developers were not afraid to get crude, to get rude, to get gory, to get, like, disturbing, and they animated it very well.
I do love it. For me, I could definitely see where it would be a turnoff for some people. I mean, for me,
absolutely.
When it comes to something like anime and stuff like that, I can make the distinction between between the two in my head, so it doesn't like creep me out or anything. But like especially that that scene in that first episode where like it just starts raining blood and stuff like that, and you just see the piles and piles of bodies in the different in the like different towns and stuff like that. Like yeah.
Also, anytime Trevor kills someone with a morning star.
Oh God.
Like here's the thing. It's like I happily embraced it because it gave you that, like, it was gory for the sake of being, how do I put it? Not like, it's not to scare you, but make you feel unsettled.
Yeah. And to be fair, Castlevania has always...
There are a couple of kills in there that I even had to wince out. I felt that.
I think especially one Isaac did against the guys in the desert where like he wraps that, I don't even know, what is the weapon like called that he uses, but like that leather strap thing, he like rips it against that guy and then like just pulls it all off, and you just see
I had to close my eyes on that one. That was too much for me.
It's like, God, ow.
Yeah, it's a leather strap with it's just
spikes on it.
He was brandishing himself with throughout the series, and oh my gosh, I felt horrible for her. It's like Isaac and Hector's backstories. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah. Isaac's one in particular, I was just like, ooh.
Oh my! It just went to you jerk to oh my.
Oh, we're going there. Oh.
Yeah, like we said, they were not afraid to get into the disturbing, and it worked.
Yeah, so I guess from Hector and Isaac, let's throw in Godbrand real quick, and then go into Carmilla.
Carmilla, yeah.
Carmilla, yeah.
Not to be confused with Camilla, as I know Fire Emblem Heroes fan out there screaming.
But I mean, Godbrand, when he first entered, and I was just like, huh? Like, oh, we're gonna have this character for the entire season, and then he gets killed off way faster than I thought he was going to, honestly.
I thought he was actually gonna survive at least to the end, and then Dracula was gonna do him, and nope, Isaac did. I was like, okay, But yeah, he was funny. I mean, to be fair though, he also did ask a bunch of like stupid questions and very simple questions as they were. Rather realistic questions too.
To be fair, yeah.
Oh no, he was not afraid to get into. His aim was to make people uncomfortable, but at the same time, he was kind of like Trevor in that he just didn't give a crap.
Yeah.
Right.
But
he's a Viking, so he likes boats.
And killing people.
Yeah.
And killing people.
So that's pretty much all on Godbrand. Let's talk about Carmilla, who is definitely one of the standouts of season 2.
Yeah.
Wow, they did her justice with her backstory.
Yes,
they did.
Wow.
I mean, here's the amazing thing about Carmilla and her backstory. This wasn't one of those interesting cases that, despite the fact that she had a pretty rough life beforehand, I didn't have any sympathy for her, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
I guess it's because the way she manipulated Hector, but
well, it's I feel like it's clever to do a character like that who is just she's the closest to full out evil in this entire show, because you at least get where Dracula is coming from. Carmilla, she's just straight up evil, like in every.
Oh yeah, she is.
Yeah, and like I said, and it's just one of those cases of no amount of tragic backstory would saved her from that.
Yeah. But I do like how she deliberately calls out Dracula on his shit and stuff like that to stir up that kind of trouble. It makes it interesting because there's weirdly a lot of like political kind of talk with Dracula's like leaders and stuff like that, which I was not expecting a series like Castlevania to really have in that kind of, because they are planning a war against the humans, so they have that kind of talk. I was not frankly expecting that, but it's appreciated because I like how Carmilla basically goes like, hey, you wanted to wipe out all the humans, but you're being surprisingly easy on them. Like, you're not wiping out every single one from the face of the earth.
Like, I imagine that's also because, like, Dracula still has that level of humanity that he gained from being with Lisa.
Yeah.
And again, every kind of villain group, quote unquote, has had that wild card, and Carmilla was basically this series Loki.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Like Dracula, again, like as she said, was kind of going easy on the humans, but again, he still held on to that little semblance of humanity. Where if Carmilla was calling the shots, she would have committed mass murder.
Yeah.
With no remorse.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we're starting to near the end of this. So one thing to talk about before we get to the final episode, besides the one track, and I think you all know what I'm talking about, general thoughts on music for the series. I'll be honest, this is kind of one of the things that I think the Netflix show is kind of lacking in right now, because I don't remember much of this music, and I think a lot of it is weirdly placed in a lot.
To be fair, this is not a video game soundtrack. It is a cartoon soundtrack, and that is treated very, very differently.
And I do get that as well, but I also felt like, especially in stuff like it's mainly a season 1 problem, because I felt like season 2 got a lot better, but there were a lot of just weirdly placed songs. There's a lot of like joking kind of songs for battle and stuff like that was kind of like raising my eyebrow.
Well, the bar scene, it makes sense.
The bar scene, I get that, but they still kind of even do that for the rest of that episode, and I'm kind of like,
I guess.
But
I think the music did its job. Like again, it's not necessarily memorable, except for, of course, Bloody Tears. I'm pretty sure I heard Monster Dance in there somewhere too.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in there.
I think the best point of funny music was the Eat Shouldn't Die part.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. It's like that like choice of music with that scenario between the three companions. Just the exchange between Alucard and Trevor, along with Sypha's face.
Yes. So okay.
But again, that's what I'm talking about. It's like the music is not necessarily supposed to be memorable. The music is supposed to convey emotion.
Yeah.
And in regards to the Castlevania series, again, with the exception being Bloody Tears, it did its job.
Yeah, I think just a little bit for seasons to come, I would like to see them maybe try and integrate some of the more classic themes kind of into there once in a while, because Bloody Tears definitely got the biggest reception of this entire show.
That is an excellent point. I would like to hear maybe Forest of Monsters,
like especially if we get to to Simon era, I better hear that theme of Simon when he's walking up that staircase.
Simon's theme? Absolutely.
Yeah. We better hear that at that point, but I guess, okay, let's get to it. Season 2, episode 7.
I went from going go to halfway breaking down in tears by the end of the episode.
So
that episode solidified my love for Dracula as a villain.
So I guess let's first talk about that fight scene where Bloody Tears play.
Should I tell you guys like the context of when I was watching that scene? Because
go on ahead.
So my friend who's in the army, cosplay pal, came down to visit for the weekend. We were just doing some sewing stuff, and she was just on her serger, and she turns on the serger right as Bloody Tears starts, and I'm kicking and screaming like an idiot, and she's looking at me, and I fall off the couch, and I'm still kicking and happy.
Nice.
I definitely appreciated that scene. Again, Bloody Tears was awesome. The animation and the fighting was also really good.
That was the best fighting animation I think of the whole series has had yet.
That's saying something, because it already has some pretty amazing fights.
And additionally, like, it's not my favorite fight scene in the series. Like, I'm gonna be fair, but again, I acknowledge that it's probably the best one.
Mm-hmm.
What really got me, though, is that the relationship between the three characters started peaking at its climax, and eventually when they go to fight Dracula, it starts getting to the resolution that these three are the ultimate vampire killing trio, right?
Yeah.
But the fight starts with Trevor basically stating the plan.
Yeah.
And all three of them basically were in complete agreement with his plan, and it worked. And it was like, oh snap, they're actually working together.
Yeah.
Like competently, no sass, no like jabs at each other's like egos or anything. No, they're like, this is serious business, and the three of them like did it really well. Like, and again, up from the beginning of the fight to the end of the fight, it was clear that the three of them were in sync with their combat.
You're at Dracula's doorstep at, like, you know, put all those petty feelings aside. We got a job to do at this point.
And they conveyed that very well. Like, especially in the ending part of that particular fight, where it's like, Alucard uses the Chrysogrim to distract the last enemy. Trevor uses the whip to pull him down to the ground, and then that's basically an invitation for Sypha to come in, burn his ass, and they're like, okay, she just tosses the corpse aside. Okay, let's move on. We gotta kill Dracula.
Yeah. Before we get to Dracula, there was a little bit sad of me that they didn't spend more time in the actual castle, because once they actually got to Castlevania, they get to Dracula pretty quick. Like, after that.
Well, the thing is,
I think, like, I'm sorry, we could fill an entire season.
Like, I thought that was
trying to go through the obstacles and the levels of Castlevania.
Like, I thought that's how they were setting it up. I thought, like, season 2 was going to be them grounding the castle, and then season 3 was going to be them inside the castle. So it's just like,
well, here's the thing about it. Chaos architecture aside, and I'll go into speculation on if that's going to be the case in this series later, but a good chunk of Castlevania 3's levels were just working your way to the castle, so I can understand that.
True.
That's true, actually.
That is true, yeah.
Like, it wasn't just the castle. It was the map. It was a map of the surrounding area. You got to choose your path, and yeah, like, you went through graveyards, forests. Yeah, you're right, actually.
I guess it was
more accurate to Dracula, to Castlevania 3 than I thought.
Well, I guess initially during my first viewing, that was before I realized, oh, we're going into Curse of Darkness kind of thing. Like, this is going to be continuing after Castlevania 3. I was still kind of under the impression that this was the Castlevania Netflix series was just going to be Castlevania 3.
And that's it. But, I mean, the thing is, when I found out they're making season 3, it's like, okay, there's only one of two things that can happen. They either end the series, they end Castlevania 3 here, or they make it a 3-parter thing. So, and the former happened, clearly.
Yeah.
Which I'm okay with, honestly, because there's very scarcely a way you can make trekking through the obstacles of a castle into a full season and not let it get stale.
True.
So I am glad that they made it like a sort of 3-parter for the castle, ending with the fight against Vlad Tepes himself.
Yeah. So
also okay, I've got to give them props to begin with. The fact that pretty much none of them, all three of them together, were for a good little bit at the beginning, were doing jack all to him. I was like, wow, they translated that from the game very well.
Yeah, they did. Dracula is powerful.
Which, okay.
Like, here's the thing. Of the 3 heroes, Alucard is easily the strongest of the 3.
Oh, easily.
But he didn't stand a chance against Dracula.
Yeah, which I gotta say, the Dracula fight had my biggest fanboy moment of the entire show when he uses the fireball meteor attack, basically.
Yeah,
I'm just like, yes.
Yep, he does that in his boss fight in the game. Giant fireball of death.
That was like the total video game moment. I was just like, yes.
Yeah, and also now we know why they were so hard to dodge. They're huge.
Yeah, they're kind of like 3 times the size of your character. So.
Mm-hmm. And I gotta give credit to how the 3 heroes fought Dracula as best they could, because it was like, Dracula was about to basically slit Trevor's throat. Trevor stabs the Chrysogrim through his arms to trap him.
Yeah. And
seeing little details like that, like Trevor not being able to put a scratch on Dracula with his punches, Sypha using her fire magic to cauterize her wounds.
Yeah.
That's clever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's little details like that make me make me relate to these characters a little more, because you know what? That's really cool. That's really when you get a reaction like "that's really cool" or "that's really clever," you know you did something right.
So I guess now let's talk about the end of the Dracula fight.
Before we do, I have to say, before I get into my feels territory, I was surprised it took the whole fight took place throughout the castle. That was something I didn't expect.
Yeah, because usually it's just the throne room most of the time. So.
That being said, rest in peace, Great Staircase. You were never seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess they're saving more kind of iconic imagery like that for.
And with that being said, rest in peace, Clock Tower. Sypha ruined it. You know you ruined it.
I love that the clock tower is actually given a reason for why it's there for me, because there's always a clock tower. Doesn't do anything. Now we know that that's what keeps the castle moving around. I'm just
yeah,
like, okay.
And also, can we also give props to whatever magical thing that makes it warp is the same, like dodecahedron, whatever thing that is in the save. That's the save room in Symphony of the Night.
Yes. I loved that little detail, but okay, feels territory time. Let's get into it.
Yeah. Oh boy.
So, I was not expecting them to do that much for Dracula's death, for this incarnation of it.
This was the first time he was doing this, in addition to the fact that this was the first time he was fighting his son. Well, technically, first, because it was kind of one.
It was a one-sided thing that first time.
The one was very one-sided.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was very realistic, because this is what happened. I mean, it just boils down to blind anger will make you not think about certain things, and upon realization of where they were, that's when Dracula kind of broke down and gave up. And he was already showing signs of giving up throughout the season, because Carmilla was calling him out on it, just like,
oh yeah,
like throughout the season, and this is pretty much was his breaking point.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, it's what really gets me about it is that that's what it took for them to actually finally be able to take him down.
Yeah. Wait.
Like, he had to realize his own hubris, and just what exactly he was doing. Like, Dracula could have easily beaten the three had they not taken the fight in there.
Yeah.
And even
he was struggling, but he would have won had they not gotten in there.
Even then, I have to say that was still by pure coincidence, because Alucard was pretty much flying by pure rage at that point at him too.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's another thing. Like, it was even further, like, developing Alucard's character too, because oh my god, he actually this is my father, and he actually cares about me.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised at first that we didn't get a second form of Dracula, since that's just a staple of the franchise. But with this kind of ending, it makes sense. Though I think next time Dracula shows up, we're probably gonna get the second form showing up at that point.
And okay, I have to mention this also. What really, really got me about what made me realize how good this scene was, like with Dracula in Alucard's old room, Graham McTavish's voice acting, his performance as Dracula, was incredible.
Like, I should say,
if this wasn't a spoiler, I mean, yeah, spoiler, he's gonna get killed anyway. But if this wasn't a spoiler scene in and of itself, I would show people, which is like, oh, this is just a cartoon. It's probably not gonna be good acting and everything. I would show them that one moment when he's saying, "Lisa, I'm killing my boy. What am I gonna do?"
Yeah, like, we made this room. We made these toys.
Yes. So like, the voice acting in this
gift you gave me.
Don't do this to me. I'm starting to tear up again.
Oh my god! I'm actually looking it up right now, and Graham McTavish, like, while not having too many like notable roles, does have some notoriety in the voice acting department. Particularly, he was also Joseph Bertrand III in Infamous 2.
Really?
And most popularly, he was Loki in Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes series, he was Loki.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, no, like, I actually found that very surprising.
But I will say, the voice acting in this series in general, I have really liked. There's a little bit of weird direction at certain points and stuff like that, but generally, I think it's pretty good across the board. Especially Dracula in particular, I think was the big standout for me in terms of performances.
like, again, he doesn't have too much, like, notoriety, but I really hope that this series and his performance as Dracula gives him a little more screen time. Graham McTavish did an amazing job.
So, I guess at this point, the only real thing left to talk about is the ending. At this point with Alucard.
The ending, and this is what I was talking after we were everything was all said and done. I was done fangirling, freaking out and everything. My friend and I were just sitting here talking about it. We were bringing up, this was perfectly valid because, like, you have to consider, because a lot of people were thinking about it. It's like, oh, he's upset about this, yada yada. Because I saw some people online saying he's upset about, and it was just like, guys, think about think about the game, think about the game and when this took place for Alucard. This is the first time he had to kill his father.
Yeah.
So yes, this would shake him emotionally. And it was pretty clear he was trying to hide it to Sypha and Trevor, partially because he wanted to one-up Trevor in the end, and I still thought that was hilarious. Flips him off in the end.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But it's pretty clear, it's like, it was a combination of Trevor, I think Trevor showing Alucard, at the very least, he trusts him to give him, like, ownership of the Belmont hold.
Oh, yeah. Like, their relationship went from...
I think was enough to just pretty much just put Alucard's emotions at his limit, and he just couldn't, at that point, he broke down.
Like, their relationship went from mutual disgust to skeptical, or not so much skeptical, but apprehensive surrender to work with each other, to genuine, if sort of off-putting respect. Like, they obviously have respect for each other, but it is clear that they still are wary of each other.
Right. But
and that's a good way to do it. Like, it shows that the two still have that little bit of conflict within them, but what friendship doesn't?
Yeah.
Right. But the thing is, and I'm just like, it's going to be really interesting because I know like, especially people who were first introduced to Castlevania with this, they're probably gonna be upset to see Alucard suddenly just like, oh, next season, boop, he's not there. It's like, wait, why? You know, just like, they have to write him out. He wasn't around to get until Symphony of the
Yeah.
Night.
Well, I don't think Alucard is just gonna be idle.
I mean, no, I'm gonna guess that the events of next season are going to make Alucard conclude that it's like, okay, my family's cursed. I'm just gonna go to sleep.
Yeah. Go take a big
or
power nap.
Or if nothing else, like, they'll make him a supporting character, or like someone who shows up, like, maybe for 2 or 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, potentially.
Because that's a thing kind of going into this, because it's clear that they have a plan to keep going. My big question is, how far do you think Netflix is planning on taking this?
I am not sure, to be honest, but at this point, like, considering that Dracula few hundred years, sky's the limit.
Like,
yeah, as far as A, critical reception is good, and B, people still like it, Netflix will probably deliver and just say, yep, keep making episodes, yep, keep making.
Because we are going, because the thing is, like, because next up is Curse of Darkness, and I believe after that in the timeline is the Adventure series, then Simon, then is it Julius after Simon?
Oh no, it's after Simon we jump to Rondo. Well, okay. Harmony of Distance, if you want to do that, it's not really... Harmony of Distance is... Here's the thing. Juice is not as interesting of a character as Maxim, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Like, the thing is, the next one that would make sense to me, like, story-wise, to do if they didn't do, like, the Curse of Darkness stuff, would just to go to Rondo of Blood at this point.
That's what I was thinking, because that has the most foundation, and again, it's the same situation as Castlevania 3. It doesn't have too much, it has just enough that you have a foundation, but it has so little that you have a lot of freedom with it. So I'm thinking they're gonna do if they, after Curse, if they jump, they're probably going to jump to Rondo and Symphony of the Night just so they can get Alucard back in the series.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. But what I'm hoping to see in the future seasons, like again, I want to see Grant come back at least at some point. I would like to see Alucard continue being a force of good against Dracula, against the fight against Dracula. One character that I am shocked they didn't write in, but I'm pretty sure they're setting up for in the future, Death.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Death wasn't in here at all. That's kind of surprising.
Yeah, Death did not show up once in this season, and I'm like, Death is basically Dracula's second in command. Where is he?
I have a feeling that might be in Curse of Darkness of how when Dracula comes back, it might be because of Death at that point.
Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing a sort of continuation of Trevor and Sypha's adventure, or like their character, because again, they're taking the steps to eventually get married and continue the Belmont legacy and whatnot. I wouldn't mind seeing them like on a journey where, Castlevania next season. I don't know what they're gonna do, whether they're going to move the next Dracula arc or whatnot, but I would not be surprised, and I'd actually be very pleased to see if season 3 focused on Death as the antagonist.
Here's the thing. I just got an idea in my head right now that I just thought about it, because the series can basically write whatever it wants at this point for like basically the in-between stuff. I just got the idea, what if Isaac at this point ends up becoming Death?
Ooh.
Because I'm thinking about it, that actually does kind of work.
Or at least makes a contract with him.
Yeah.
Because the Grim Reaper is supposed to be an infinite, omnipresent and immortal force.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure Death still exists somewhere in the world, but I would like to see something happen with Isaac. I would like to see something happen with Carmilla.
Yes.
Again, the last episode was clearly building up to all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I am very much looking forward to season 3.
Yeah, to go back to the ending thing, the other thing that I really do like with Alucard's ending is that they don't play any music during the credits after that, which I think is a really, really nice touch.
Yeah, that actually was very nice.
Mm-hmm. So, I guess that's pretty much everything about both seasons of Castlevania. Any last little bits you guys want to talk about?
See, I'm thinking about the voice acting. If we do manage to get that far, I can't imagine what's gonna happen when we have to start getting into Bloodlines and Origin of Ruin and Diary of Dawn of Sorrow, because they on none of mind you, Bloodlines does take place in Europe, but John Morris is American.
If they get a grumpy curmudgeon of a Belmont or someone in this, I totally nominate Steve Bloom.
Yes! Yes!
Please.
I'm just thinking, and then I'm also thinking of Alucard's voice actor when we get to Aria and Dawn of Sorrow. He's probably gonna have to oh crap, I'm gonna have to drop the accent, aren't I? Or at least try to disguise my accent, because nobody's supposed to know I'm Alucard.
Yep.
Okay, there's one thing I would like to note, because the Castlevania Twitter was brilliant in the months leading up to it, because one character would usually take over the Twitter at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was Sypha's and Alucard's ties were amazing, because whoever was running the Twitter account needs a raise.
What did they do exactly for them?
One of the best things I saw was when he was just okay, we're gonna revert it back to just normal general news and everything, was Alucard saying, so I was I'm done, everybody, I'm going back to sleep, and it's it was basically the scene where he came out of his coffin but in reverse, and it's just
which by the way, Alucard goes to sleep with no shirt but still dress pants. What?
Oh, that's another thing that Twitter did, because they showed everyone's stats and everything when they showed character profiles. Alucard's fourth stat was fighting shirtless maximum.
Of course.
In case you haven't noticed, Patrick, Alucard looks pretty damn sexy with those dress pants and no shirt.
Well, I'm just saying in terms of dress pants aren't exactly comfortable to sleep in.
You think Alucard cares?
Well,
Let me put it this way. I have friends who are lesbians, and all of them who like Castlevania. That.
Please, like, I don't care whether you're gay, lesbian, straight, or
everyone's
asexual
got
or
a thing for
whatnot.
Alucard.
Alucard looks damn sexy, and you know it.
Yes, he does.
And on that brilliant note, take
That's-
us away, Patrick.
So that has been our discussion on Castlevania Netflix. You know, we will be back probably for when season 3 drops next year, because
It drops next year because I don't want to dip in animation quality.
yeah, I hope they can keep this quality up because we're going into Curse of Darkness, which is not as popular. So I'm a little worried in there, but like they have shown promise with these first 2 seasons. I want to see where they go. I want to see where they go from here.
Like, at this point, I'm not even practicing cautious optimism. I am very much looking forward to what they have in the future. Highly recommend this. Even if you're not a Castlevania fan, I highly recommend the shot. As long as you're okay with crude and rude and the, just general goriness of this, like, they don't hold back on this one.
Yeah.
And if that's okay with you, then I definitely recommend this to anyone who really wants to get into the Castlevania series.
Mm-hmm. And that should be about it. So, I guess real quick, if they are new to my channel, where can they find you guys at?
Well, you can actually find me on Twitter at hero_chaos_chow, and you can also find me on Instagram. I've actually started my own cosplay page. It's called ChaosChao Cosplay. I only have a few cosplays up, but I hope to get more out there. And you can find me on twitch.tv/weedude, because
you can find me
on forum. Yes, it was for you, sir.
What was it again? What was it called again?
What? Oh.
Wait.
ChaosChao Chaos?
ChaosChao Cosplay for Instagram. For Twitter, it's Hero ChaosChao.
Oh, Twitter. I was looking on Tumblr.
Oh.
I have Tumblr. That's a cesspool. I said it.
Alright, anyway, for Oscar, where can I find you?
Well, of course, TheGreenScorpion pretty much has, I have a YouTube channel, basically where I talk about video games, and more video games. Occasionally something different, but mostly video games. I also have a Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. Don't judge me. But where I pretty much post things on a regular basis. Yeah, if you guys are basically into video games and exploring how video games, why video games, where video games, and what video games, then I'm looking forward to seeing you guys.
All right, and that's gonna do it for us. So have a good night, guys. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.